Joining me right now is Ohio Congressman, House Appropriations Committee member Tim Ryan. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Maria.
Tell us about the appropriations. This is your committee, your reaction to what the president will propose today.
Well, I'm anxious to see it. I mean, I think we are at a critical time. We're in deep competition militarily with our strategic competitors, Russia and China. They're making hundreds of billions of dollars into investments into the latest military technologies around the globe. That's a significant issue that we need to deal with. But we also have to make investments here at home into research and development, closing the skills gap to get people into these higher paying jobs, to make sure that we have a healthy citizenry and rebuild the infrastructure. So we've got a lot on our plate. I'm anxious to see what the president's idea is on how we do that and how we pay for it. But we've got to make these critical domestic investments if we're going to compete globally.
Yeah, I think this is a really important point that you're making, because as part of the budget, we also understand that this budget is going to allocate money toward artificial intelligence and quantum computing. This is an area I think that you're referring to, given that China has been investing in these two areas in a significant way.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Huawei, you know, the issues we're having around 5G. China's running circles around us in 5G. Investments into AI, additive manufacturing, aerospace, all of these things, they're really making significant investments, and they're playing the long game, Maria, which they do. They have a 20-year plan, 30-year plan, 50-year plan, 100-year plan, really. And we go kind of year to year, in many ways live in a 24-hour news cycle. So we've got to start being very mature with our long-term investments. How do we align those investments with areas of the economy that are growing, and then plug our workers in to make sure they're getting a piece of the action along the way, and they're seeing those significant wages that can be made in some of these sectors of the economy.
Yeah, and Congressman, let me ask you about the blue-collar boom that the president keeps talking about, because this is a theme that you tried to own as well when you were running for president. Look at these numbers. The January jobs report shows construction and goods-producing jobs have risen over the past month, but manufacturing has slumped slightly. What do these jobs mean for the Northeast Ohio residents that you serve? And tell us how you would characterize this blue-collar boom that we see very good numbers on the economic backdrop.
Well, we took a huge gut punch here. We lost a General Motors factory that was about 4,000 jobs just a couple of years ago, and all of the spinoff from that, the seat manufacturers, the logistics company, the trucking. So we've taken a big hit here, and I think those manufacturing jobs are down 12,000. That's a significant blow to a lot of communities in the United States. So I think the president is overstating the blue-collar boom because people are still suffering. They still have high prescription drug costs. If they tried to help send their kids to college, they're paying those loans back or helping pay those loans back. So it's not, I think the president's overstepped here a little bit, and I do think it can cause him a little bit of political heartburn because people aren't feeling it. And I think Hillary Clinton had a little bit of this issue when she was saying, we got to keep the economy going, it's going well, and people are saying it's not going well for me. I think the president's falling into that same trap right now. And so what we have to do, Maria, is that there are jobs available, and there are strategies that we need to put in place, but the government has to play a role in helping organize that and getting some capital out there. So I'm anxious to see if the president's going to do it.
Yeah, well, we're going to speak to Peter Navarro.
We're going to
speak to Peter Navarro from the White House in a little bit, and I suspect he's going to talk about wages being up, particularly the lowest on the income scale, seeing their wages up the most, and of course a 50-year low in unemployment. So we'll get to some of those statistics in a minute. But I want to ask you about the party right now, because longtime Democratic strategist James Carville is taking on the leftists in the party, saying this: he's, quote, scared to death of the 2020 election results. Congressman, if Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren wins the Democratic nomination, what would that mean for the party? And look at your own experience, because, you know, when you first ran for president, I thought, wow, you've got the right message, man. You were focused on the worker, and you were basically shut out. You weren't progressive enough for your party. It's been hijacked by the extremes. Assess it for us.
Well, I think if our nominee is running under the banner of democratic socialism, President Trump will get reelected and he'll win 48 states. And I'm not sure the 2 states we're going to win. there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, the idea of taking private health insurance away from people and forcing them into a government-run system, some of the issues around decriminalizing the border, those kind of things, those aren't going to fly in the industrial Midwest. And the recent poll that was out had socialism at 18% approval. I mean, that's a disaster for us. We'd potentially lose the House of Representatives and not get the Senate. And so, you know, fortunately, I think a guy like Joe Biden, who's going to play the long game, and once the map shifts and we get into Nevada and South Carolina and some of the Super Tuesday states, he's going to do a lot better. The field's going to narrow. So I don't think that Democratic socialism is going to win the day in the party. But I think, you know, what Bernie does do, Maria, quite honestly, is he speaks to excuse me, a lot of the economic anxiety that's out there. And I don't agree with his solutions, but he is identifying that problem, that there really isn't a blue-collar boom. And he speaks to that, and I think that's what people gravitate towards when he's talking. I don't agree with his solutions, but he does identify that anxiety, and that anxiety is real. I just think a guy like Joe Biden's the best person to help fix it.
And it doesn't bother you about these gaffes that we've been hearing so often from Biden?
Well, you know, all of us who are on TV a lot, Maria, we all say things, and you know, you're open, you're wide open. It's raw.
Absolutely.
He's a big-hearted guy. He's got a great record that you can look at.
And let me ask you this,
saving the auto industry.
Before you go, what about Bloomberg? Do you consider Bloomberg a moderate?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
You do?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
You haven't mentioned him at all.
You know, I mean, for
Does he have a shot? Does he have a shot?
Yeah. Well, to be seen. I mean, I think if Vice President Biden can get some momentum, you know, and really push it out there in the next few weeks, that factor is going to go away. You know, I mean, you know, Bloomberg supported John McCain, and he's got some issues that are going to come up once this competition moves into the Super Tuesday states, you know, where he's playing. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Joe Biden.
You make a really important point there, Congressman. It's always a pleasure to see you. Please come back soon.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much. Tim Ryan joining us this morning in Ohio.